taxiing hold short runway 8 via taxiway Golf Alpha Lima, Cessna 6 Charlie Sierra.
Hello everyone, Country Flyboy here, today with another video in the A2A Cessna 172 tutorial. Today, we're going to talk about engine run-ups again, but we covered engine run-ups before, and in that case we had an engine run-up area. We're going to let this this American aircraft jump in front of us real quick. Alright, so, what if you're departing from a big international airport like this?
Request taxi to the gate. American 1926 taxi to gate Charlie 7 using taxiway hotel.
That's a busy day.
Taxiing to gate Charlie 7.
What if you were departing a big international airport like this? No run-up area in sight. Well, how do you run up then? Well, you can run up during taxi. So, let's say we're taxiing along here. We just completed our taxi tutorial. We're going to give this guy a bit of a berth. He just came in from DFW. Looks like there is a 757 coming in too. KSDF, that's a UPS airplane. If you're wondering why textures aren't showing up on some of my airplanes, it's because of DirectX 10. Some airplanes I use are World of AI. Alright, so let's cover the specifics. You want to do your engine run up during taxi. You want to cover everything you don't have to do with the engine first. So make sure your flight controls are good.
Jacksonville ground, UPS 2322 heavy. Request taxi to parking.
That's a UPS 757 there. And everything's ready to go. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to run the throttle up to 1800 RPM. As the aircraft speeds up, you just want to sort of hold the brakes for a bit to keep the aircraft from going too slow or too fast. And we'll check the right mag. Good. Check the left mag. Brakes again. Good. Check our gauges. We're good on the vac, good in amps. Oil pressure and temperature are good. Alright. Throttle stop block. I really recommend you get used to doing the run-ups. That way you can do them relatively quickly when you have to do it on our taxiway like this. Also, calm wind days only. When there's little to no wind, this is the only time you ever do an engine run-up while taxiing. Another thing I want to talk about is wake turbulence, but we'll do that another day. Seeing that Embraer in front of us made me think of it. Alright, let's talk about another way to do engine run-ups when you're coming to an airport such as this. You can do it at a taxiway, specifically if this has got a wide taxiway like we got here, where there's plenty of concrete we can get off to the side. So let's park the aircraft over here as if we were going to do an engine run-up off of the taxiway. Preferably, you would not go actually off of the taxiway like I just did. But you'd want to get somewhere in this neighborhood. Like I said, you don't want to actually physically go off of the taxiway. I sort of messed up there. So you could do your engine run-ups from here if you wanted to. And while we're here, we're going to talk about taking off from an intersecting taxiway. Now, Flight Sim will always tell you to go to the end of the runway for takeoff. It'll command AI planes to do that too. However, you have the option of taxiing to an intersecting taxiway like I'm doing here. Basically, if I go into top-down view, and you can see default ATC want us to go way down here. But we can actually just taxi to any intersecting taxiway along the departure runway and still get takeoff clearance from default ATC. Pretty simple way to do that. I'll show you how. Just pick a taxiway. Now, you may want to check and make sure you have enough room to take off. Obviously, this is a big 10,000-foot runway. We got plenty of room. But if you're not sure, you can always look at the runway itself and kind of tell just how long it is. If you can get a look at the threshold stripes and know how to read them, they'll tell you the runway length total. And you can look at runway markings too. You see these stripes here, 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 and continuing on to here? Those are in 500-foot intervals. This marking here, the big solid white rectangles, those are called 1,000-footers or aim points, touchdown markings. I've heard them called a lot of things. But they are 1,000 feet down the runway from the threshold. So that's 1,000 feet, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500, 3,000. So these are the touchdown area for bigger aircraft. We might have a problem. That King Air is probably going to try to exit on this taxiway. Maybe not. I thought he'd have a longer or shorter landing roll than that. Alright, so he's going to continue on down there. Runway stripes are 150 feet in length and spaced in 50-foot intervals, so you can also count them as from the bottom of one stripe to the bottom of the next is 200 feet, or the top of one stripe to the bottom of the next is, or from the top of one stripe to the top of the next is 200 feet. So yeah, you can count runway stripes too. Or if it's at night, you can count runway lights. Lights are spaced in 200-foot intervals. Alright, I'm going to tune Jack's tower real quick. We're going to take off behind this Embraer. We'll talk wake turbulence.
Contact ground on 121.90616, cleared for takeoff. Runway 8, surface wind calm. Cleared for takeoff. Runway 8, 616.
Someone remind me to check my ATC stuff.
Contact Jacksonville ground on 121.9.
Alright, that Embraer has been cleared for takeoff. As you see, we can request takeoff from right here.
Jacksonville Tower, Cessna November 906 Charlie Sierra, ready for departing straight out at runway 8. Cessna November 906 Charlie Sierra, hold short, runway 8. Traffic is Embraer jet on the runway.
Alright, let's talk wake turbulence. Now, this jet is big, he generates a lot of wake turbulence, and he could really throw us for a loop if we get in it. So, wake turbulence avoidance I'm going to cover in another video another day, but we'll touch on it here. Basically, you want to stay above his flight path or away from it. We'll note we have calm winds today, so the wake turbulence is going to sink right down on top of the runway. In this case, we would want to note where the Embraer actually rotates and leaves the runway, because that's where his wake turbulence is going to begin.
Cessna, November 906 Charlie Sierra.
Alright, looks like he goes down roughly about 1,000 feet before he rotates. So his wake turbulence begins about 1,000 feet from where we're going to take off. So what I'm going to do is give us a lot of room, and we'll do a short field takeoff here. I'm also going to offset from the runway center line.
Contact Jacksonville departure on 123.8.
Since he only went 1,000 feet down from this point before he rotated, we need to get up. We need to get up off. We need to get above his flight path before 1,000 feet down the runway. So we'll do a short field takeoff.
Clear for takeoff. Runway 8, Cessna 6 Charlie Sierra.
Everything looks good. Gauge is in the green. Release the brakes. Alright, so short field takeoff just like we talked before. This is all to get above his wake turbulence. And once we are about 200 feet above the ground, I'll offset from the extended center line. There's 655, we'll rotate, climb out at VX. Alright, there's 200 feet, we'll pitch for VY on offset from the extended center line. That way we avoid getting in his wake turbulence, because he has a pretty steep climb. So it's really all about learning what wake turbulence is, learning how wake turbulence behaves, and doing what you can to avoid it, and changing your routine, because you're not always going to be following standard procedures. As you saw today, we could have done a normal takeoff, but we had to do a short field takeoff instead to get clear of his wake turbulence. Otherwise, we would have got thrown for a loop. Alright, as we turn left on course.
November 449er Kilo Victor, Jacksonville Tower. Take straight in, runway 8, altimeter 2992.
And that should cover the extra stuff I wanted to talk about. Again, I'll be covering wake turbulence avoidance more in depth in another tutorial after the A2A Cessna 172 tutorial is done. And yep, so that's just everything I wanted to talk about today. Run-ups from a taxiway, run-ups while taxiing, and a bit on wake turbulence avoidance. See you next time. Which means you'll be hearing their Morse code identifier. Flight Sim doesn't model high-watt transmissions, so you won't pick them up. We covered that during cruise. This knob over here is how you select which radio you're transmitting on. Again, we have COM 1, COM 2, and COM 3.